Hey, what is up, YouTube? And we finally have brought back the podcast. So that is what this intro is for today. We found Slasher in the depths of the internet, and we pulled him and brought him back to life. So it's myself, Get Right, and Slasher on the podcast that isn't a podcast today. We talk about the ESL groups, ESL Pro League Group 1, and we talk about the power rankings. We had like a discussion about like #1 player in the world, that kind of stuff between S1mple and ZywOo. It was a pretty long podcast, so you know there's an uncut version as always for free on my Twitch. And as always, Sicko does an incredible job of labeling and timestamping every single discussion and topic in the description below. So if you guys want to hop around or whatever, you can do so. If you guys like this video, as always, please do not forget to like, comment, subscribe. You know, let us know what you want to talk about next, all that good stuff, or what we should talk about next, rather. No, whatever. You know what I'm saying. Talk to you guys later. Enjoy the video. So we actually gonna talk Counter-Strike for a second. Slasher's gonna pretend to know what's going on, and then after we're done talking about Counter-Strike, once we're done talking about Counter-Strike, we'll kind of wrap it up with some bigger stuff, and then Slasher will attempt to shit on CS as much as possible.
That is not true.
And that sounds about right.
To Eric.
What do you mean? I think that's what we're doing though, right? That sounds like the schedule. So we'll start with, what is it, Group A? Group A today was the advanced fucking teams were ENCE, Heroic, and Vitality, right?
Yeah.
Not really too surprising, I think, out of that group. I mean,
no.
The ENCE surprised me, actually. ENCE surprised me. The new roster was better than I expected. I really didn't think, like, I don't know, I haven't watched them play. I didn't expect them to do anything. Yeah, they look pretty good. I thought Spirit would go, and Spirit was really underwhelming.
I mean, I'm more shocked in that Spirit. Like, it felt like, at least when they were playing against the other like top teams in the beginning, I think they play Astralis first round, they won the first round, and then they basically got crushed the other two. And then the second game they played, they got crushed like 2-0 again directly after. Which is not typical Spirit because they've been pretty decent the whole year, if you ask me. But ENCE, I'm not surprised, to be honest, because ever since they did the new lineup for ENCE, I just felt like it's been much more improvement since like the later stage of the Finnish lineup.
You mean since they got rid of Alu?
I mean, when even Alu was in that team, to be honest.
No,
when Alu was still in the team. Don't try to fool my words. And just because I'm a Swedish person and American language is not my first language, you don't have to do this to me. Okay?
No.
Don't be a jackass, okay?
Whoa. I'll never be a jackass. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Okay.
Am I the only person that finds it so strange that ENCE only has one Finnish player?
It is strange.
Like, is this not weird to anybody else that this is how the rosters ended up?
It's like one of those things where just I feel like every team now is an international team. So like, yes, but also.
Yeah, but out of all the orgs, this is one of them that I always foresaw was going to be 100% Finnish all the time.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because like ENCE has always had Finnish team and it's a Finnish organization. I mean, it's basically like saying when you think about, NFP, for example, it's a Swedish organization, a Swedish team, Now they have the Vice though, but like, I don't know. I think like Finland actually has a lot of talent, but I think like they couldn't just find like the pieces that they wanted to. And I think the biggest problem they had when jumping on that team and then went over to Valorant, I think they felt like kind of clueless and had to like go international, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, who is their most recent pickup? It was Hades, right? And Hades has been pretty good for them from what I saw, but I haven't seen them. I only saw them play just a touch, like for the EPL groups. So I don't know, I don't know enough about the Finnish scene to like know if there were enough pieces or something like that. I think you're right. I think they couldn't get Yampi back. They lost Alu, who was kind of like, not only, it's the guy they made the entire roster about, and then they lost him and they just wanted to find solid players that made sense. And they just picked up whoever made the most sense that was available to them, and also probably, kind of in that affordable range where they're not going to go and buy somebody out from a roster or some crazy shit like that. They want to go and, you know, they want to do what they did the first time, which is build a roster up. So I think, yes, not finished roster is extremely odd, especially considering I feel like the ENCE organization hasn't done anything to feel like an international organization. They still, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like even NIP, I feel like has done a better job of not, I don't view NIP, even though they are a Swedish minus Device, I view them more as like an international team, even before they really picked up Device, and like just because like the presence they've had. And I don't think ENCE has done a good job of that. I think ENCE is still like the Finnish org that just happens to have one Finnish player and an international lineup, which is, I think that's the odd part. I think the org has done a poor job of like reinventing their identity a little bit around their new roster, but maybe they want to go back to a Finnish roster or something down the line, so maybe that's why they don't want to do it, something like that. But and then Heroic, bro, Heroic looks good. Heroic looks like they're running it back. They look mad good. I don't know.
I mean, is it that you know, they're back online?
Dude, no, you can't say that. No.
No, it's the meme right now. You
I know.
Because like they had like according to me at least, when I was looking them, you know, before when they were playing, what is it, Cologne event? That was the first LAN. I think it was okay showing for them, but FaZe like played really well. I think like if they actually won that game, they would, you know, qualify for playoffs, and I think they would perform much better when you compare in that last game. But FaZe like got it back all off. Team felt like more impact. I think Brook had one of the better games they played in FaZe, so they just managed to get the playoff spot there. So I don't think like Heroic had a poor like showing at Cologne, but like at least I think a lot of more people were expecting them to advance to playoffs for the first LAN of the year, or hopefully for more.
Yeah, they should have, right? No, like they're the clear favorite in that matchup, but FaZe was riding that hype train.
Yeah, exactly, and then we're just having this team, you know, and then everything worked out for them, and all of us back, you know, it felt like they had like a much better showing than they had before FaZe, at least for the online period. So it was just like they just had everything for them. And I think Heroic, you have to also remember, like, Heroic actually had so many like problems during the event. Like, you remember they were stuck in the halter rooms after like the first day of the LAN because like some of the persons were infected the first set of Black COVID, and then it was negative, so they went back. Like some of them had to play from the rooms apparently, and then they had to play in the boot camp rooms, and then it could eventually, I think, like come out at like it was like, I think there was a lot of more tool on them, and then like the Hunden thing that happened as well when he like got removed in the beginning of the like, I think there was like, it was too many things that was going against Heroic, so they didn't really have that showing that they wanted to, and I think they were hoping for. And I think a lot of more people were expecting just to get to playoffs at least, and like get like good games against everyone else. So I think it's just like, it's more like the meme, and I expected for the next LAN to play even much better than like
a lot of noise around the team. No, I honestly, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I actually completely forgot not only about the COVID thing, but that was right when the Hunden shit was coming out too, which was hilarious. Like, I mean, it's like, it's like sad, hilarious, and just like, what in the world actually, like, that whole thing just seems so weird to me. Aren't they like in a court case or something for that still? Or is that still ongoing? Or did that get dropped? Weren't they, right? They were trying to like take him to court.
I think they're still ongoing, I think. I'm not sure.
I wonder what's going on with that. You know, Slasher, did you keep your eyes on that at all? Did you see that? Anything?
I mean, look, we haven't heard from the FBI in 2 months either. For at this point, I don't expect to hear anything about anything. Where are you? You fucking come back.
They're on vacation, dude. They're on vacation.
Permanent vacation? Ian Smith, what the fuck happened, bro? You said maximum a month and a half. It's been like 3 months. I've been dead longer than you have taken to fucking figure out what the hell has been going on with this match fixing bullshit. It feels like this is shit as Mr. I know I'm going completely off topic.
No, it's fine.
No,
Go ahead.
You're Slasher, man. You do whatever you want.
Yeah, dude. You do you, man. You live your best life. Get it off your chest.
We're just trying to have like a good face. Me and Eric, you know, I'm legend of the game. Eric's is the face of, I don't know, something in NA, and you're Slasher, you know, like that's how it is, you know. You just go balls deep, and you're doing your own thing, basically.
No, but like the Hunden's a great example, I feel like. ESIC did a pretty good turnaround in terms of like getting the statement out there and getting ahead of it. But it really felt like to me, they were doing it to avoid at all costs talking about the bigger elephant in the room, which is whatever this match fixing scandal is or isn't going to be or happen to be. I feel like they definitely put themselves in a fucked up position by even doing that interview with /32 on YouTube to begin with, which caused all the following media attention and people looking into what happened. And if there was involvement from the FBI in that, and they can't disclose any more information, and they're waiting for legal officials to kind of dive into this, they have totally fucked up everything else. So just talking and just like them turning around a statement on Hunden, to me, had like very little to do with that specific situation and everything to do with trying to avoid the bigger talking point here.
What if this is just all bigger than we expected, though? What if this is like ESIC passes this off to the FBI and like low key they found the biggest organized crime group in the world on some shit, dude, imagine just like they actually arrest like 50 people or something. Like obviously not ESIC, but like imagine in like a month from now ESIC comes out with a statement, does or doesn't ban some players, whatever the fuck, and then the FBI just arrests like 25 or 50 people. That'd actually be the sickest thing. I don't think that's gonna happen, but could you like, just being absolute batshit crazy off the wall? I feel like, what if that there is a possibility, right? Like less than 1%, but maybe that'd be sick.
I'm feeling it's the exact opposite.
No, I know. I feel like they jumped the gun. Then they didn't have them, as good as they thought they did or some shit, and then they're just like, oh well, fuck, I don't know what to do now.
That's really the place that I'm in. I feel like the extreme version you're talking about would be fucking explosive, and maybe that shit will happen. But I actually really feel like
I like my version better.
They went too early. Yeah, your version is way better. It's way more exciting. Like I'm looking for that. We can get a documentary about it.
Oh, dude, Michael, can we get Michael Bay on this, dude, or maybe make it like a Jason Bourne type movie, dude? Just really just fuck this whole thing up and just make it ridiculous. I'd be down. All right. Now that you derailed us, Slasher, unreal.
Yeah, my bad.
Oh, wait. But no, actually, I did want to hear Chris's thoughts, not Slasher's, because, this is Counter-Strike talk. Vitality. Bro, Masuda looked good, and Kyojin doesn't look that bad. Masuda actually looked good. Like, not, like, he doesn't look like a role player anymore. Yeah. He looks actually solid when he was playing, and I don't know. Like, I was just curious, Chris, do you think he continues that, or do you think it's just like a couple good BO3s?
No, I think he's just finally got his groove into the team. Like, when you just like compare all the games they played in group stage.
Yeah.
I think someone even tweeted, I don't remember who it was, but it was some personality, like basically today, I think it was yesterday, said like, it seems like Vitality has finally found their second star in a way. And I'm like, wait, wasn't Shock supposed to be there? But then I remember Shock is more, the older person in the team taking care of it. With Apex, he showed like supposed to be taking a step back. And Suda was supposed to want taking it up when he joined the team, And he had a poor showing in the beginning for quite a while, if you ask me. But then like later on in the stages, like when I think it was Arc with K, like when they added in Screen's brother.
Oh, Nivera.
Like then Masuda's like finally started showing up like his like potential and his skill. And they just faded out a little bit, but like I think it's just a little bit too early to be honest. But I think they're on the right track eventually, like right now, which I'm happy for because it seems like Vitality like they have ZywOo for fuck's sake. Like you just look on the stats on every fucking game.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Like, no negative games. He's just keep going 12, 17, 16, 16 again, and 25. Like in the first game when they played against Spirit, which they won after losing the first map. He's the only one with a plus, like stats wise. But at the end of it, you have to remember like stats ain't everything. But it's just showing like how good that player is, and he's also like one of the front guys in that team. So it's a good showing. But the only problem is like I always had like the biggest issue I have with Vitality. I don't know like Kyojin. I don't know how to pronounce his name.
It's a Kyojin. I think it's how you say it.
I don't know. I don't know what his role is, to be honest, because like every time that I see him playing, it's just like I'm just a little bit curious, like what is the thought process with him, and knowing I guess it's just like he could be the next thing, and he's still young, etc., which is good. It's 22, it's okay, but like it feels like RPK, at least in my opinion. Maybe I'm just like a little bit biased in that way, but I felt like RPK did a great job with what he was supposed to do in that team, and I think he was the. If they had the issue that we're having with like changing a play and they need something new, I don't think he was the person they should have like replaced at least. But I don't know. This is also like the difference you have to remember. Like we're not inside of the teams. We don't know anything.
Yeah.
And it's only speculations of what you think about it. But in the end, like it looks pretty decent, at least for time being. But we'll see in the later stages, because like now they came second, I think it was, in their group. Yeah, second in the group, which is pretty decent. They only lost against Heroic, so it's a good showing from Vitality, at least for the second part of the year, or the second season, if you can say it like that. So that's good.
What do you
do you two consider ZywOo and s1mple to still be the two best players in the world?
I do.
Yeah, I mean they are. I mean, I just think like s1mple has been showing last Katowice was the real land last time.
Oh my god,
he was just like he was just over the top, and then like you're like, wait, how s1mple's gonna be showing? Now he's been a little bit up and down.
Yeah,
I'd love to lose the first game of the LAN tournaments, and then he just started cruising like the whole fucking lower bracket, then go to playoffs and play really well. And somehow they're unfortunately lucky like lose in the semis or something like that, or they just go the whole way and just crush everyone. But s1mple just stepped up to the plate once again 1 year later, basically, and just like went ham.
Yeah, he went like simple. Like it wasn't just like a good event. Like he dominated, like absolutely took over. And ZywOo, I think ZywOo is one of those players where he doesn't necessarily, he's still fucking ZywOo, where like when these roster changes were happening, I think his form dipped, but not like he's missing shots or something, but I think because the team was in kind of a weird state, just like Chris was talking about, like they replaced RPK and put in Kyojin, but like the roles don't really seem to make sense, and it doesn't seem as if they replaced a 1-to-1. More so they're reinventing the team altogether, which will take time. And I think ZywOo personally has dipped a little bit, but not like because of his individual play, just the team as a whole is a bit unsteady, and they're changing how things work within the team. And I think because of that, he's s1mple, I had no problem really, saying ZywOo was number one, s1mple number two, and people get into that debate all the time when ZywOo was collecting, the MVPs for each year. But, when s1mple basically had that statement tournament and ZywOo's kind of faded a little bit, I think right now, if you're really getting into a debate of which one's number one, I think s1mple's clearly number one right now, with Vitality kind of in this weird phase of them not, like reinventing is too strong of a word, but they're still figuring things out with their new fifth. And I think ZywOo's number two at the moment, if that is a discussion worth really even having. I mean, they're still the best two players in the world without a doubt in my mind.
So I mean, like going along those lines, and I kind of want to hear what you feel like in terms of like regarding Vitality as a whole. And I know Counter-Strike is a team game and everyone works together and blah, 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 blah. But if you have the best player in the world, the expectations for that team continue to be Vitality needs to win championships all of the time.
Yeah.
And anything less than like a finals berth for these leagues, or even a semifinals berth, feels like a disappointment each time, considering they do have the number one or two best player in the world. And Counter-Strike continues to evolve, and I want to kind of maybe hear your thoughts later on how the game currently is in terms of the meta or how things are. But star players can carry teams all the way through these events. So if Vitality doesn't get to the finals of Pro League, I feel like it's going to continue to be a disappointment for this team as long as he continues to be the best player.
I mean, my take on what you're saying though is it's a little bit different for both of them. I think s1mple and Navi has way more pressure on them to deliver championships and to win consistently because they have Electronic. And because of that, you know, I always joke that, you know, Electronic's the right hand of the king, right? Like he is the duo. ZywOo doesn't really have that. Like there are players on Vitality that step up at different times and, you know, statistically and can take over games. But none of them are Electronic. None of them. And I think that's why it's a little bit different for Navi versus, say, ZywOo with Vitality. Is ZywOo, when you look at the stats page, nobody is even. They're all negative. And then it's just ZywOo like plus 1 million. Where on Navi, it's a bit different. Like, yeah, S1mple's doing the same thing, but then you have Electronic, or even right now, like Perfecto and Bit have been individually, I feel like, looking way better. So I think putting that much pressure on ZywOo is a little unfair because I just don't think Vitality has that second star, where Navi has for sure 2, and I feel like a third on the way with Bit or Perfecto.
But if I can say something between that before you continue, it's like, isn't that basically the same thing that happened with Navi before, when everyone was expecting Navi to win everything because S1mple was so dominant and everyone was like bashing his teammates that they weren't performing when Zeus and Edward's still in the lineup, and saying like, well, S1mple doesn't have the teammates like other teams has, you know, or the like Stars and Device, especially, you know, with their core and that team, etc. And like Navi was still going distance, you know, and Vitality is, in a way, in my opinion, kind of the same thing that they were before, at least. But I agree with your statement there, saying like, you know, Navi have at least someone sometimes that, you know, helps S1mple basically. But sometimes in their world seems to be more often than maybe Vitality has it, because like at least maybe when they have too many, I guess, young players in that team, Vitality, they don't really have like a ground to their play, like team play and how everything's set up yet. Or maybe I'm just like thinking since it was a little bit, it was a while ago, I really looked into Vitality personally, but I guess you need to give them a little bit more time, it feels like. And ZywOo still, like, and S1mple is S1mple still. They're like 2 of the best players in the world. Like, there's no argument there. Surely S1mple has he's number 1 clearly because of his performance for the past like 1.5 years, and then you can debate about ZywOo there and their timing in, etc. And then you can debate about their play style and what they're doing, etc. But I just remember, wasn't it like Alex when he was in Vitality, like he did like some sort of a like half angry interview where you're saying like, you know, we're not doing, or what was it like?
Somebody's got a flash for ZywOo, I think, is something like what he said, right? He was like, who's throwing the flashes or whatever, or something like that, or who's doing yeah, basically who are the ones putting ZywOo in that position?
Yeah.
But no, I remember that interview. I would just say, I think your sentiment that a lot of people used to have these unrealistic expectations of S1mple, including myself, you know, that because he's the best player, his team should be winning. I think ZywOo and Vitality don't get that as bad, and honestly shouldn't, because the game has evolved so much. Like, I think people, well, I'm not going to pretend like everybody that watches the game has an absurd amount of knowledge. I do think people understand the depth of like where the game goes, versus, you know, when Counter-Strike was still like a little bit more fresh, S1mple could just literally take over games, and he still can, but it's much more, you know, there's still other elements. There's so much to the game now where it's not just S1mple or ZywOo running around shooting everybody and dropping 35 and you just auto win or something. It's a little bit more in depth than that, and I think that's why people, including myself, don't go as hard on ZywOo or Vitality, because at least me, maybe this is just purely from my own like anecdotal perspective, but like I just think the game's evolved way past the point, and understanding that it does take more than one. You need the supporting cast, even if it comes from different people at different times. And I just think when you compare the two teams, Electronic is far more consistent and better than everybody on the Vitality roster, minus ZywOo. And then Bit has been absurd lately, and then Perfecto is like super steady. So I think that's why that conversation, kind of what you're talking about earlier, where people always expected S1mple to win, even though he had less before he even had Electronic, people expected S1mple to win, you know. And I do think that was unfair, but I think that was more of a lack of understanding of the game than it is something that was like fair criticism.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's because you two have way more knowledge about the game than most of the analysts in the scene. So you understand more of the nuance and what is reasonable kind of like criticism or analysis for how a team or a player, should be performing. Like getting S1mple some fucking help and getting ZywOo some help is like more prominent than they need to be winning all the time with this roster. And of course, Navi has definitely done a much better job of putting the best players possible around S1mple. Vitality's actually done, I think, pretty solid, but not as good as Navi has in terms of winning. From like an outside perspective, me as someone who's definitely watched Counter-Strike go from the beginning and Counter-Strike in general from the beginning, I definitely feel like Counter-Strike comparative to other esports still, and even including like Valorant, has more of an approach like the NBA where one player can take over. Like I feel like basketball as like a sports analogy definitely has the option where one or two players can take over a game way easier than in football or definitely baseball or even hockey. And Counter-Strike is still much better to do that than in like Valorant or even League of Legends or Dota, where ZywOo or S1mple has the opportunity to take over the game just by themselves, even though they do need, of course, a supporting cast around them and a better roster around them. So even though ZywOo doesn't have that as much as S1mple, I can understand from a fan perspective of why they expect these two to win all the time, even without that core roster. So of course Counter-Strike has evolved to the point where you do need a lot of teamwork, you do need the supporting cast, but I do think the game, especially compared to other esports, still allows you to have that one player that can take over the game and take over matches and kind of win by themselves.
For sure.
I mean, there isn't that many games out there in other esports games that have that opportunity that we have in CSGO or CS franchise in the bigger picture, where it's like one player out of 5 can just like go ham and basically like destroy a whole team by himself. Like, there isn't really other games who can be depending on a player like we can do in CS. And I think it's like actually a pretty cool thing that actually CS has been keeping for such a long time, whereas we can have a S1mple, we can have a ZywOo, we can have a Forest back in days, we can have a Shocks and Kenny S and Guard and all those, legends by the past, like I think that's the beauty of the game, because then we can enjoy those cool moments when those things happens, like it's not every day we will like, I can't even bring up example, but think about like when Fnatic were in their prime in 2015, especially when, Flush and MBK had that like knife battle at IM Cologne, the grand final at the major. Like that's not something that's gonna really happen, that in any other game, basically, because in other games it feels like if you do the mistake, that could basically cost you the game and it costs you to lose that team fight or that round, basically, it feels like. But in CSGO, it's like, okay, you lost that round, it still means we can still get ourselves up there and still fighting back, because we're getting probably tilted by that round because that shit happened, but we're just letting it go and then keep going forward, and hopefully my teammate who sits next to me on the stage, he's gonna go ham and clutch maybe one of the most important rounds during that match and that map and turn it around to our favor. It's not really happening in other games, and surely it could happen in other aspect. Like I think like one of the biggest one, if you take like the international one for Dota, I think it's like what is that famous clip of OG when what is his nickname now again? The French guy who Seb, yeah, when he does that, with the axe guy, I don't remember.
Axe taunt? Yeah, no, it's axe.
Like, those are like one of those rare moments that happens in those other games, if you ask me. I mean, surely there's even more in especially Dota, for example, but does it really happen in League that often anymore? Not really. It probably happened way more before. Now everyone seems to be at least more, better individual, all those kind of things. And I don't know, like, I think that's just the beauty of CS, if you ask me.
It's definitely one of the best aspects. Counter-Strike, out of all the major esports, has the individual ability to take over games where other esports don't. So I can understand from a fan perspective of demanding wins from Navi and Vitality all the time, just because they have S1mple and ZywOo, even if the talent around them isn't as what they should be. but having watched like LeBron try to carry the Cavs for like however many years,
dude,
with the ownership failing to put any fucking person.
I'm an Ohio
LeBron.
boy. Don't do this. Don't do this. I'm
So
Keep going, keep going, keep going. I love this.
Dude,
so
rough.
it's like there's only so much that one man can fucking do. And LeBron, for everything, he needed Kyrie to eventually get over the hump of like the Warriors and their 72 win season. If he does not have Kyrie, there is no way that he even sniffs getting to the finals, let alone beating the Warriors. There really only is so much the best player in the world can do if he does not have the amount of the help around him. But I can understand from a fan perspective of demanding like the championship level caliber all of the time. If you don't make the finals, you underperform. If you don't win the championship, you underperform.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, at least from my point of view, who have been a competitor for such a long time before and being called one of the best players or even the best players before, like there is certain expectation and like certain like pressures you get from your fans and organization, even your teammates time to time, that's like unbearable if you ask me. But then again, I think it's just like s1mple. I agree to Eric's statement with before. It's like s1mple and Navi especially has a higher like what do you say, like
expectations.
It's expectation for
sure.
But
Look,
it's like
Vitality not done a good enough job of putting the help that ZywOo needs. I mean, they've done a lot of roster moves over the last like year. Like they feel like they're trying as best as
they've had moments. They've had moments where they seem like they have the right pieces, but nothing like lasts with Vitality. And nobody has emerged as the electronic of Vitality, I'll call it. There has not been there just hasn't been a second star. They've had players, like I said, they've made adjustments, and you can tell that the management's trying. They're trying new players. They're trying up and coming young players. Like they're throwing everything they can to try to find that second piece that is consistent in the star player. And I think Masuda actually has looked really good since they've made the Kyojin RPK switch. And like I said, I don't think that's because Kyojin's better than RPK, but I think whatever they did to reinvent that roster seems to maybe be like the first step in the right direction. But yeah, I think so far Vitality is I don't think it's from lack of trying though. Like I don't think that the Vitality organization has just been like content with having ZywOo and isn't trying to find pieces around him to make them a champion. They know what they have in ZywOo and they're not just like complacent, but I think they just haven't found the right fit yet. I don't know. It's tough, man. CIS is stacked. They're just like, I didn't know. I barely knew anything about Bit, and people were hyping him up, and that man has absolutely emerged into probably the third star of Navi for this year, and that's kind of insane to think about when you think about how like that roster is actually so scary with Bit's current form and the fact that you have s1mple and you have Electron. Like the whole roster is disgusting. Like actually, the only thing you can critique is they seem stale at times tactically. But if I'm Blade, I don't even want to do anything with the roster. Like when you have that many good players, tactically, I don't want to limit them by telling them what to do. I'd just be like, you know what? You guys just keep playing, keep building that chem. I'll just be over here. s1mple, go kill. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So back to the original point, now that I've kind of, fanboyed for Navi, I just think that Vitality's tried. They just haven't succeeded in finding the second piece. But it's not from lack of trying. I don't think they're doing a poor job. They've put full effort into trying to maximize the potential of ZywOo and that roster. That's where I'll end with that.
But the only problem that I see is like who is the other person? Because I thought Nivera would actually and seem like a perfect fit for them, at least to take over like one of the fifth spot instead of being a sub. But then again, since Val made the new change towards to not having like 6-man's lineup either, doesn't really help out in that way. And people can't do like they wanted to do in that. So I guess that screwed up a little bit the Vitality's idea and thought process around it. So, but still, again, like, I don't know, it just feels like they're missing something just a little bit, not too much. And Masuda is at least stepping up to the plate a little bit more and more, like the longer time it goes on. But it still is like maybe he just needs another player, or maybe it's just like, hey, I'm completely wrong, and I should just shut the fuck up and just like let them play and actually show good CS, which they seems to be doing right now, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But who knows? Like, I don't know. That is my opinion regarding it.
I think
kind of related. I mean, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I mean, I don't want to continue to divert off topic, but it feels like I'm really fucking good at it.
No, it's fine. We're literally this is what it's all about. Just keep it rolling.
Yeah.
It's it feels like from watching the current state of Counter-Strike esports, the CIS region, the Brazil, and with the exception of Denmark, all of Europe and North America has taken such a big hit in terms of the talent development across both regions. Yeah. And that is why we are seeing not only the less of the single nationality rosters, but there is definitely not as much up and coming talent as there used to be. But I mean, that's why so much of the upcoming talent is in CIS. Brazilian scene is doing really well with their own league now coming into play, and their viewership is almost as good as like all a pro league. And then Denmark continues to produce a ton of talent, but it feels like besides that, the French scene, the Swedish scene, especially the Finnish scene, the Polish scene, I don't know where the fuck all the players are. I think like a lot of people are playing other games, other esports games, or other scenes, and all their potential players that would have been in Counter-Strike are not there, and that is why some of these rosters are having issues, especially if you want to keep a single nationality roster. You don't have as much talent as you used to have if you're not one of the three nations that is Brazil, Russia, the Russian scene, or Denmark.
I mean, I think like if I could say something regarding, I think someone asked me that question, it's like, what's up with the Swedish Counter-Strike scene? And I think it's just like,
that's the biggest disappointment out of all the regions to me. Boy. The Swedish Counter-Strike scene is so like, what the fuck has happened? They used to be the best in the world for like the first 15 years of Counter-Strike, and it feels like it has completely evaporated over the last 2 years, and I don't really understand what has happened.
I think like the lack of giving chances to younger people. I guess that's saved my career in a way, if you're gonna be that honest with it. But also, I think it's just more Swedish, like people, players, etc. They just feel like if there's other things that way more interesting. Maybe just streaming at CS and having fun with that, you know. I think like a lot of more younger people are seeing easier things in other games and other things to do where they can make money from. I think that's the attitude that changed, at least for the Swedish scene. And maybe a little bit fault as well from other, like the older generation, like myself, we're not really teaching the next generation CS, basically. If it's the correct way to do it and the correct way to go, I'm not sure, you know, but at least giving them the chance to, you know, go and do their own thing. Because if you also like remember way back, now I'm gonna go a little bit off topic with that, but it's just like Norwegian scene was also like really famous to have like a really good player pool, and some of them went to like abroad international, and some of them went to Sweden and Denmark, if I'm not completely wrong.
This is like Element's fault. Element and Zekatur, you fucked this up 20 years ago.
No, but like if you think like that, I think it's just like the Norwegian scene. Like their issue, what happened with them, at least how I look at it, and I think some of them would probably agree to them if they ever listened to it, was just like every one of those players back in the days where everyone knew of them, they basically quit at the same time, it felt like. So then never the next generation, they never got the chance to get the knowledge that they already had, you know, and they had to learn it by self, and then they got bored because you have to remember some of the Norwegian players back in the days, they gave so much time and effort to it, and it finally took like, let's say a year and a half to actually find that receptivity to actually really make it work. And then all of a sudden, you know, that next player is like, okay, no, I'm not gonna give that time because it's just unnecessary. But I don't know, that's just how I feel on it and when I look about it. I mean, I even get a question nowadays like, "Hey, Chris, are you interested in like coaching a new team or like play with like a couple of youngsters basically?" I said, I'm like, yeah, it sounds interesting if you ask me, but the problem
I
is
just say no.
No, I say always it is interesting if you ask me, but the thing is just like, first and foremost, I don't think my health would work with that. My health can't, go with it because I would give all the way with it and like really like give too much of my time towards it, and that's gonna be going basically back to playing again, and I don't have that time and energy for it anymore. It feels like. Second of all, I don't see myself as a teacher. I don't like every time that I try to explain people things of what I like believe in and my thought process is, I'm missing like let's say 75% of what my head is saying, and I can't get it into words. And then I'm just basically like getting frustrated and I'm giving up on it. So I don't see myself as a good like coach or a good trainer for XY person.
I got my own take on this.
Why has the Danish scene been exempt from all of this?
It
feels like they're really the only. Oh, not anymore.
No, I got my own take on this.
If you really look into it with Hamden, I think every one of those professional players, at least 2 years ago, everyone was basically taught by him, or like they got learned the way of CS through him. Like everyone. Karrigan got a little bit of that. No, not Karrigan, because Karrigan came from 1.6, but like Glaive, Device, all of them basically. Like when you think about it, like they had Handel. Handel was there and always held them out.
The one guy. No, I don't know. I feel like you guys are both kind of right. I think if you guys combine kind of your ideas together, you get the right answer, which is, I think people playing games these days have way more options for one. And I don't even just mean like Counter-Strike or Valorant. Like if let's say you were a Swedish kid or whatever, you're American kid and you're playing Counter-Strike. Now you can like, if you have the skills in CS, it's kind of like building a resume, so to speak. You can pursue so many different games and it actually sets you up for so many different opportunities, where I feel like, and also on the other side though, if you don't dedicate all your time and resources into getting good at Counter-Strike, the skill ceiling is so ridiculously high now at the highest level that like it's essentially not worth it, maybe isn't the right term, but it's a lot more difficult to go pro in a game like CS, not necessarily because Counter-Strike is a harder game or whatever. That's not the discussion I'm trying to have, but more so the game has just like been elevated to a point. It's been out for so long that every single little like micro adjustment to the game is so massive now that the knowledge that you have to have, the mechanics you have to have, where if you're just like a pretty good Counter-Strike player and a new BR comes out and you take what you've learned from Counter-Strike, you start streaming, kind of like what Getray is saying, you now have like the tools and you're going to be pretty entertaining because you're already going to have a head start on players that don't have the same background as you. And you can, be a professional streamer, or maybe you get picked up for like a battle royale team or something like that and go down the content creation route. I think there's just a lot more options for people coming up now, where before it was like, oh, do you want to go pro in a video game? It's like Counter-Strike, Dota, League of Legends, right? Is that fair to say? Where now it's like Counter-Strike, Dota, League of Legends, any BR insert here, content creator, Valorant, whatever. And before COVID, it felt like we were getting a new game or a new BR every like 6 months, where somebody could essentially blow up with one of those games and all of a sudden you're on top of the world. So I think it's a lot more appealing, and I'm not trying to shame people for it. And I think it's an easier route for a lot of people to pursue other avenues after playing Counter-Strike for a while than trying to go pro in CS, which is, I think, is it's not that there aren't young people playing Counter-Strike. It's just that when you get really good at CS, the leap to the elite level is so large, where if you just go play something else, you're probably going to be among the best players that play, especially if it's a new game that just came out, which dilutes the amount of players that are making that jump to the highest level in Counter-Strike. That's my opinion. I mean, so many players now, or even streamers, I mean, people don't even realize that they have a CS background. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, I played against that guy in Premiere in Counter-Strike like a year ago or something like that. And then insert person's name here. Everybody, well, not everybody, but a large majority of the FPS content creators at some point were playing Counter-Strike at a very high level, just not necessarily the pro level.
I mean, wasn't even like Team the Tatman like pretty like high up before back in the days? When
yeah, Tim got carried by Hiko, but yeah.
Fair enough. But still, someone has to be carried sometimes, right?
Yeah. All right. But wait, before we continue, I'm gonna wrap that one up because I feel like we could go on that one forever, and we all kind of got our say in there. Unless Slasher, you good on that? I felt like you were kind of ramping up there.
No, that was good. I was just relaying that to like Vitality's issue of not being able to find as many players in the French scene. This is why G2 is an international roster. That's why so many different rosters right now are international. Unless you are a Danish team, a Brazilian team, or a Russian/Ukrainian team, the ability to continue having a single nationality roster is so difficult more than ever before because that young talent is not there as much as it has been.
Yeah.
Which is definitely a bigger problem for Counter-Strike overall. This is definitely going to continue to only be an issue moving forward.
Yeah. The most quite interesting thing with it, if I can say the last thing with it, it's just like think about so many other games. Like there never really been any like really fully like one single nationality team. It feels like in other games at least. Like look at Rainbow Six when G2 was like the biggest team ever in that region, or like that game basically.
OG.
I think they OG as well. Like I mean, I think it's just mostly the American teams, I guess, that at least had those kind of things with Canadians and Americans, if you see like that.
Well, I mean, a big part of it is, I mean, you can definitely chime in, is like, the communication language aspect. You keep a single nationality roster because you can speak in your native language, and it's much easier than trying to have 5 people from 5 different backgrounds all speaking English at the same time. But I think at this point, like everyone has a very good understanding or knowledge of English, and it's not that big of a difference. And you'd rather play with the best possible players, not necessarily the only nationality players. Which is actually, considering all this, it's surprising Astralis is still a Danish only roster. Maybe that is because of the sponsor stuff, or they want to continue only talking in Danish and it doesn't really matter. But I definitely feel like that aspect of only having a single nationality team is only going to continue to go towards the wayside. And we're going to continue to have more international rosters for all esports.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. All right. So now we finally got past my first line of my notes. We'll just talk about, okay. We're going to keep this one brief, goddammit. All right. We're going to talk about the losers really fast. So Astralis, my overall thoughts were Lucky looked better than I thought, and Astralis looked better than I thought, but I really don't know what to think of him, and I just think that roster is still going to go through changes, so I just think it's kind of like pointless to really kind of dive deep into Astralis, because I imagine, I think Dupree will be gone by the end of the year. That's my own personal opinion. I think, yeah, that's, I don't know. We'll see, though. We'll see.
I think it's just more when you said like they look pretty decent. When you look at it result wise, they only beat the other teams that actually didn't really perform.
Yeah.
So I mean, and the other like those 3 games they lost 2-0. So it wasn't that impressive.
I didn't say they looked good. I just said they didn't like. They looked better. I just saw losing ZywOo literally basically like right before the event. I expected them to have a not really win. Well, no, I think you're right, actually, when you put it in perspective like that. You've swayed me. I think, I just think like individually, though, they didn't really look terrible. They just look like a team that doesn't have an identity right now, I guess is a better way to phrase it.
We'll see as well. Like,
did you watch them play at all, Slasher?
What was that?
Sorry. Did you watch the new Astralis play at all with Lucky and ZywOo or no?
Yeah, they've looked solid. I don't know from like, because I've taken a little time off, are they still expected to be like a top 4 team in the world, or are they now with this new roster?
I think they're like
top 10.
I think they're more like in the rebuilding phase, I guess I would say.
Yeah.
At least how I look at them, at least personally. I think a lot of people see them as more like, in the phase of rebuilding himself. So I don't think no one really expected to be a top 5, top 10 team right now, but maybe in the future.
Yeah.
But who knows? At least in my books, at least. I mean, since both me and Eric usually streams during the hours when these groups has been happening, but I've been trying to catch up a little bit more and look into depth. But I don't know, like it just seems like something happened with Device left. What happened? I don't know. Like something really.
Well, one of the 3 core left, essentially, right? Like, I mean, it was
true.
like he was the identity at that team, along with Glaive and Zonic. He's, there's no replacement, right? There is none. Like, it's like, okay, we lost Device. Who do you get to? It's like if Navi loses S1mple. Like, there's no, even if you got some bright up and coming star for a while, you're not really. You lost S1mple. Like, there's no replacing that, and that's what they lost. They literally just lost Device, and now they've lost Xyp9x. So now they've lost 2 out of the 3 of the core that have been together the longest.
It's inevitable he goes to NIP, right?
dupreeh or Xyp9x? Or I think dupreeh goes to NIP. That's me. This has no backing. This has no. This is just a gut feeling that I feel like at the end of the year, dupreeh joins NIP. I think NIP needs dupreeh. Is kind of the other reason of why I say this. I think just like we were talking about, we were talking about Vitality needing that one more piece. That's where NIP is right now. That's where Liquid is right now, in my opinion, as well. Is like, I don't really know who you replace on any of these rosters, but it also feels like they're missing one player. Like to really just like become a top 5 / consistent elite team, And if I'm NIP, I know that all their, his contract I think ends right when Xyp9x does, which is at the end of the year. I'm just sitting there. I'm trying out new young talent like NIP has been doing, seeing if any of them really are like have insane potential. If not, hey, how's it going, dupreeh? Here's the bag, and let's reunite you with Device, and let's see what we can do. You know what I mean? But like I said, I have no clue if that's gonna happen. Like, I just, in my head, that makes so much sense. It's disgusting, and I think Astralis. The reason I'm worried about this roster is, yes, they lost Device, and there's no way of replacing them, and it just feels like because there's no replacing Device, you're gonna probably have to make other changes for this roster to really. It's gonna have to form a new identity under Glaive because he re-signed, and we'll just have to wait and see. Right now, Bubsky and Lucky individually don't look bad. At all. Bubsky was great on Mad Lions before. I thought he wasted his potential by being the 6th man of Astralis. Lucky looked like he could hold his own just fine. It just seems like this team's kind of a mess.
But if you can keep going with the list of the teams, Spirit, who came second last, they play a tight game against the Stars and Vitality.
Bad news,
the Stars
Bears.
game. Do we need to talk about them?
Do we just skip Spirit because we're just kind of underwhelmed, and we just go straight to Bad News Bears and just create like cue the sad music?
Yeah, cue the music now.
Okay. As a non-NA fan, well, okay, not that you hate NA, Chris.
No, I love NA.
But did you expect Bad News Bears to win a map?
Yes.
Okay.
A map, yes. To win a game must be on a really good day.
Okay.
To getting to next stage, no. That's a hard no.
No, yeah, okay.
That's the only thing I'm saying no to. So looking at that with the results and what they're having, etc. But the problem is also like Pete left the team just recently as well, and then Universe is stand-in, I guess he is.
He's on loan or whatever from Furia.
Yeah, so I don't know what's happened with that team. But I think, like I said before with Bad News Bears, it's just like, I feel like it's been a while since they've been a team now. They've done roster changes a little bit there and there. People have left, people have joined. They haven't still got an organization. And I feel like if they really want an organization, it feels like it should have already happened, at least in my books. Because they're pretty solid in the NA like scene. Because NA is basically like Brazilians and NA teams playing against each other. But when you go in abroad to Europe, where it's way more competitive, it's more, countries playing against each other, the scene is like more healthier in a way. Of course, I'm not expecting them to go like far or doing like massive damage in that way, but I expect a little bit more from them, just a little bit more, at least like a little bit like a positive note, for example. Like I think I remember a team that's not even playing probably, like I think it was Extra Salt that came to Europe for like a month or something or two. And they had a pretty good showing at least.
No,
they
looked
second
good.
in one tournament.
They should have won that game.
They should have they pushed big so much. They should have won it. Also, I agree to that statement. But that was like a good showing, from American team.
Yeah.
But with Bad News Bears, I don't know. I feel like they lost their identity a little bit through like all the changes they've done. So, but I don't know. I hope the best, and I hope they get something up from there. And I hope they're not, tilting their asses off too much about what happened now with the last 5 games they played here in Europe. I'm not sure if they play anything more, if they're going to stay longer or anything. I have no idea if they're going even back home. Like, I don't know. But I hope they're not giving up at least yet. But the clock is ticking, and I can understand it. I've seen some of the tweets from some of the players as well, etc. Like, the clock is ticking.
Yeah, you can tell it's building up. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I feel like, I don't know. I don't blame them for not having an org, because I think right now if you're, because keep in mind, Extra Salt essentially, for those of you that like don't know how it happened, it wasn't, the Extra Salt org came to be because the players kind of made it come to be. They like went out and found, I don't know exactly like the whole story, but like this org didn't exist, and these players were very resourceful in finding essentially their org and being the first roster with this org and essentially creating it with the people that own it. And I think Bad News Bears, that's a really hard ask to get Bad News Bears to do the same. I also think right now, if you're not with the entire situation, if you are an NA team, and even Liquid struggles with this, is like, you're essentially just sitting in NA for like months on end right now. And then eventually you kind of come over for a little bit. You're there for like a week. You try to get acclimated to everything again. And then, whatever happens. And then you go back and then you're playing the same 5 or 6 teams again. And for Bad News Bears, they don't have any support. And it doesn't make sense for an org to really pick them up right now. I think it does. Like, I think if an org got them, they'd be capitalizing on like a good moment for them, where they have a team that's in Pro League, like they have a team that's doing well in Cash Cups, like playing in a bunch of different stuff in NA, but also like, and they'll get them at a better deal essentially, right? On the flip side though, there's not as many like tournaments that NA teams are going to be participating in Europe because of COVID. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. Even Liquid, who has facilities in the EU, isn't spending tons of time in Europe necessarily practicing over there, because like it doesn't make sense. It's just kind of a weird place right now. And NA relies on EU because it's the bigger scene, it's got more fans, it's where Counter-Strike is, right? Is in Europe. And when things are locked down the way that they are, and even though there's still like there's a little bit better right now, it's not like what it was, and you're not spending months at a time traveling, playing against these teams, getting that practice in. And for orgs, your teams are playing in far more tournaments, right? If there were more tournaments actually happening right now that Bad News Bears could get to, like consistently, I guarantee you an org would probably pick them up. It just kind of feels like a weird spot for NA teams, because you're just stuck playing the same 5 or 6 teams, you play in the same cups, and then you travel to Europe for like a week. If not that, you try to basically bring your level to you try to up your game, get acclimated to all the different play styles that Europe has in a week or two. And then if you don't have success, you just go back and you have to wait again. And that, that's not how it normally is. Normally you're like, okay, you had a bad event. Well, guess what? Next month or next week, we're traveling to Sweden, right? Like, oh, we were just in I don't know, Poland. Let's go to Sweden now, and we're practicing against those same teams again, and we're getting better and we're getting better. You used to be able to see teams get better during the circuit. You know what I mean? Where you could see like a team not look that great, and not just NA teams, any team not look that great, start playing in the circuit, they're going to multiple events, and you see the growth of that team. And right now, you don't have that. And for NA teams, they need that. They absolutely need that, and it just doesn't exist. So I don't know. I feel really bad for them because I think you're right. I think the clock's ticking. I think the players are getting really frustrated, not like with their situation. And I just hope it doesn't bleed like into a situation where they get frustrated with each other. Because I just think it's a tough spot. Real quick, I got to swap out my stupid ass headset battery. Hold on. Slasher, don't you dare talk shit. I got tape on my headset. This is how this goes down.
Professional streamer.
And a professional streamer should also always have an extra pair of headset, bro. Always.
Unbelievable.
Fuck you.
Thought you had a headset sponsor. God damn it. That's why you're sponsored by HyperX. #ad.
No. What do you think, Slasher? What do you think about like Cloud9 coming back in and not necessarily like maybe Bad News Bears, but maybe just taking a chance on another NA team, kind of like with the Extra Salt situation? I know you love that situation. You love talking about that.
Just buying out Extra Salt, putting them on Cloud9, and then seeing them lose every single match after. That's what's gonna fucking happen.
Cloud9 curse, bro. The Cloud9 curse.
Considering everything that's happening in the scene and esports as a whole, I honestly do not see anything getting better anytime soon. Unfortunately, I really don't know what to do as a general fan of North American esports for Counter-Strike specifically. Even in a larger context, North American esports is not in a great state. I mean, esports, we talked about it before we went live, but esports as a whole, positioning itself versus streaming and streaming culture, it is in a tough spot, and that is trickling down to every single game. So when it comes to Counter-Strike, not only has it had the issues of, and I guess we'll get to it later, fucking Valve not giving a shit, which is not fucking helping anything.
Oh boy.
And now that Valorant is out, if you're a player, the option between trying to go pro in Counter-Strike and seeing Bad News Bears, who fought tooth and nail to qualify, from ESEA to finally get into Pro League and then get fucking absolutely destroyed to a -91 round differential, does not give a ton of confidence if you're an up-and-coming North American player to want to play Counter-Strike professionally. So between the two, you see tier 3 NA players who are now the best players in the world in North American Valorant. The choice is clear of what you're going to do to try to make a living and to be a professional player if you're not going to go and try to be a streamer or whatnot. So like Bad News Bears, I love those guys. I think John G's tweets are fucking hilarious through this whole thing. I feel like they're actually doing a really good job of like the social media marketing aspect, but I am not surprised, even with all of that, that no organization picked them up. If I'm in one of the orgs, and I will always 9 times out of 10 take the side of the player over the org because I want to see players get paid. I'm not really like crying about teams not making money or whatnot. I can't fault the orgs for not picking up Bad News Bears here. Like, I feel like if I was in their position, I would not have picked up Bad News Bears. I would have saw them pretty much losing out. They had like a almost non-existent chance of making the playoffs. And the downside was they were going to get crushed. If an org had picked up Bad News Bears before Pro League started, and then they went 0-10 with a -91 round differential, that org would have been shit on so fucking hard for the last week.
Yeah,
and
no, for sure.
That outcome was so likely that it was really hard for me to see any org picking them up. So if that is the team that qualified for Pro League and they got fucking destroyed, it doesn't give me a whole lot of confidence that any other org should be trying to do anything. Unless it is picking up, stealing away a roster like Extra Salt, who looks very who've proven themselves to be pretty confident, pretty successful so far, relatively, or just taking a European roster as a whole anyway.
Oh.
I mean, really, if we go back to all of like the roster development and player development and young up and coming players, everything we spoke about previously, and then you add on top of the Valorant situation, which is a huge fucking issue when it comes to like the Counter-Strike esports scene. The only option, especially for NA, the only option is picking up a full European roster, or maybe you get a singular North American player or two, and you build a European roster. You don't think roster around them.
You don't think Tarek Junior Rush is a great starting place? You don't think that would be
that's solid? Yeah, sure, fine.
I'm just saying, there's actually some half decent like NA players right now that are free agents, or like, Junior's on the bench, Rush is on the bench. Or actually, I don't know if Rush get benched or did he get released?
I think he got benched.
Okay, so you have two players that are on the bench, and all three. And then I feel like those are all three actually pretty solid pieces that you could absolutely build around if you were in org right now.
You are totally right. You're totally right. But then you have the added problem in terms of like the point system, where if you're an org and you pick up all new players, you don't get any of the points.
That's fixed pretty quick. No, that's not really a problem anymore. In fact, it's kind of the other way. NA actually has a huge advantage in this regard, actually. The cash cups that ESEA/ESO run play into those rankings. And so do the ones that I run for the HLTV stuff. So like there's like the ESL rankings, obviously, that carry. But like, if you didn't know, Bad News Bears is ranked higher than ENTS, according to ESL. Bad News Bears is like 20.
Oh, that's pretty funny, actually.
It's 21, and ENTS is 22, I think. I don't know. I'd have to look. Let me hold on.
So you can game the system if you're NA. I mean,
yeah. No, like they're like for an NA team, if an NA org owner actually knew like how this system works, if your team wins 3 cash cups in a row, you're gonna be up there. Like, hold on, let me see. I'm loading it up right now. I gotta greet all these cookies. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, Bad News Bears is ranked 21 here. I'll literally the new team that was just made. Oh my god, this font and this coloring is awful. The new team that was just made, Eternal Fire, the Turkish circuit super team, is actually ranked already higher than ENTS.
Oh, number 2, 22.
They're already ranked higher, because if you play in these events that are in your region, the points are still distributed the same. So like, Bad News Bears has been farming cash cups, and the Players Association agreed to use this ranking system, not HLTVs. So. Don't forget that. Like, that's important. This is important. Like, if you were an NA team, you could easily get Tarek Jr. Rush, and I'm sure there are more than capable 2 other players that you could build with. They win a couple cash cups or even get second in them, and all of a sudden they're going to be sitting there close to the top 20 in the ESL Pro rankings, and they'll get invites. They'll get invites to every DreamHack Open, and if they get in the top 15, they'll get into the DreamHack Masters as well, and to the other ESL events. You're going to get invited to like 80% of the tournaments if you win like 3 or 4 cash cups. So from the ranking perspective that you're about to bring up, I'm only shitting on you just because you didn't really know. And to be fair, most people don't. That system is actually kind of fucked now in the opposite direction.
If an esports org didn't find the value in getting Bad News Bears, who's already in Pro League, does any of this other stuff matter? Okay, maybe in your singular scenario of getting Tarek, Rush, Junior +2, maybe that is one of the only possible options where I can see an esports org getting back into this space. But there's just so many larger contextual issues. The whole reason that orgs drop Counter-Strike in the first place is because they are very poor at making money. Like, the bigger issue is that esports orgs are not good at fucking revenue generation. So
yeah, they don't know what they're doing, so they want rev share for everything. But I mean, ESL has that
other
too.
Games. Yeah, no, I know, but I just feel like there's
so many
obstacles. There's just so many obstacles for the orgs in terms of getting into the space and picking up players. I feel like it's an easier time. If you were Tarek and Rush, there'd be an easier time for Tarek to individually go make a new fucking org and a brand and to get sponsors and make a team than actually getting an org interested, which is ridiculous sounding because I feel like Tarek has absolutely zero understanding of how to do that. But the entire scene is so fucked up that I actually could see that scenario working out better for him than trying to get Envy or Cloud9 to reinvest in the scene and to like pay all of them salaries and to get back in. I just don't know how to fix all of this in a larger context for NA because of everything going on.
I mean, this is COVID, right? Like COVID just really does exaggerate the problem specifically for Counter-Strike more than any other game because of how international Counter-Strike is. Like in terms of, yeah, sure, it's mostly based in Europe, but like in the sense of the events that like, you know, like Valorant or like specifically like Riot positions itself not really having that many, right? Like they have regional, then they build up to international, where Counter-Strike's the exact opposite. Like it's all about how teams are competing around the world with one another, and the locations are primarily based in Europe and most of the teams are European, but like internationally still it like you had teams coming from a bunch of different regions always playing, and I think COVID has just completely scuffed that and probably hurt that aspect because it was just built that way more than any other esport. You know, Counter-Strike players, and I don't like this actually, Counter-Strike players were traveling, you know, if they're on a top 10 team, they're traveling like 280 days out of the year. That's fucking ridiculous. You know what I mean? Or like when I say traveling, I mean abroad and not at their house playing Counter-Strike. And obviously with COVID, that's just not happening, even for the players that are in Europe. And
I mean, I very hate to say this, but it really feels like the dark ages after CGS went under is what we are. It's
stop.
The best comparison that
that's such a dog shit one. No, you're really telling.
You're like that CGS, is the current state.
Oh god, no, shut up. I need a mute button for your dumbass for that one. Get me out. Get me the fuck out with that.
Is that like after CGS went under? Is that like NA 1.6 died? You still had EG with Lurpus and Nothing and Fraud competing against the international rosters, but the difficulty level of them winning championships became so much like.
For shitting on Americans so much, you have such an American-centric view on this, which is hilarious. The CGS wasn't fucking American teams minus like 2. It was like we had like scrounged up international players. Like you had this. It was just based in NA, right? Like it was like I don't know, like CGS.
Yeah, but so much of the talent went to like the CGS, even though a lot of them were source players and they weren't 1.6 players. It split the community and it made like people not know what the fuck they should be doing. And considering COVID and the current state of esports, NA Counter-Strike is in this like weird fucked up situation scenario. I don't
think it's CGS times because I'm sorry, but Bad News Bears, even though they got smacked at Pro League, they still made $100,000 in prize winnings in 2 months or 2.5 months since they like formed. That's not CGS days, bro. That's not CGS days. That's not how this works.
Why do they need an org to begin with?
Let me look at the prize winnings. Let me see. Because they won like I think it was like 4 cash cups or something. They were just rolling. They're like $20,000 a piece.
Yeah. Like, wait, Bad News Bears?
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, actually, I faded out completely from the discussion because I was actually watching that ESL Pro ranking. It's actually kind of bullshit, the ranking, because like every person has their own points basically. So for example, you mentioned Eternal Fire. I was like, how can they be up there already, when there's other teams been playing? And then I went into them and looked at it. All their points are based from Santares. 88.3 points. And Issa has somehow points, and he has 3.1, and Immor has 0.5. Like all their points, why are they second, like 22 spot on that ranking, is because Santares. Voxes has 0, Calyx has 0. Like they have individually points by the players. So that's why they're higher up on their ranking, for example. I mean, it could be good and bad to some extent to have that, but it's kind of bullshit in a way, because like when you're talking about that Bad News Bears things, for example, why they're such a high up as well is because of junior player Furia. Like comparing to everyone else's points as well, because their only points are still like 2 or 1 or almost free, you know, that's not like huge enough, but that's something, you know. And it's same, you know, like then you go to your junior, he has like almost 16, almost 12, you know, like those are points, you know, that's gathered by them. That's why they're so high up on their ranking, for example. Because like it's same like even, which I was actually a little bit surprised at because I had to go into NIP and
like 80 grand. NIP, Chad, sorry.
Device actually has less than Plopsky, Res, and Hampus. Right. They had like 100
with their second. It was like it's like 70 just from cash cups that I'm like looking at.
Like the ranking is like 70 quite interesting that way.
Sorry, so to correct myself, from the cash cups, it's not quite 100. They've made around $70,000 to $80,000. Like roughly in there, because I'm just looking at ESEA cash cups and they got runner up. They've won cash cup, 15K prize pool. Obviously it doesn't all go to them. I think it's like 10 for first or like 9.5 or something. So they won it 5 times and then they were runner up 1, 2, 3, 4,
5 times.
They're runner up 4 times. No, they won 4 times and they runner up 4 times. And that's just from ESL. That's not my shit either, where we do like 5K ones, which are much smaller, but they've won them. So they're not like when somebody says CGS days, I'm sorry, like CGS days, people were literally like couldn't eat food. It's not really like that right now. It's more like, yeah, there's definitely a split between the
paid pretty well.
They got they didn't on CGS.
The state of the
how much it is? No, I want you to say out loud how much a CGS player made.
Also a couple of grand at least.
Yeah, but like, think about what he's saying right now. That's what I'm saying. Like my man is literally calling it CGS days, and these dudes were making less than what we would consider minimum wage these days, essentially. And my man's like, "Yeah, dude, we're CGS days, bro. Yeah, no, like shush. I know what you mean from the sentiment that the NA community is in a weird split spot, but that isn't CGS days. That's just Source 1.6 days. That's all we're at right now. And that's normal. Like it was the glory days of Counter-Strike Global Offensive when both communities finally got their head out of their ass. Source a little bit quicker because, listen, no sourcer, at least to my knowledge, was like, oh my God, our game is the best thing ever. We liked our game and we didn't play 1.6, but as soon as Go came out, we knew what the future was. Some 1.6 players shit on Go for a long period of time before they switched over, but then eventually they got their head out of their ass because even though they realized the game was bad, they realized the future was with Go. And then that was when Counter-Strike really started to become what it was. And then you started adding like half decent updates from Valve. You know, as much as I love to shit on Valve and Slasher loves to shit on Valve more, they had some, they like to, you know, they actually did some things for the community at that time that were pretty new and honestly revolutionary that didn't happen at that time. And it really kickstarted everything in CS. Like now, yeah, you're right. Counter-Strike in North America is taking a step back because we split the community. And I don't really think, I don't know, it's not good. Like I don't want it to be that way, but at the end of the, calling it the CGS days is really dramatic. You're clickbaiting. And I don't want that. Don't clickbait. A little bit. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. But no, I agree with you. Like if you're like orgs aren't going to take the chance right now. I don't think they should. I think, you know, unfortunately for the Bad News Bears players, like I don't think there is going to be, especially after the EPL showing, no org is sitting there going, oh my God, I can't wait to join in. But I also think there's something to be said where I don't know how much Leadify is paying or how well their merch is doing. I don't know if it's really a bad thing that Bad News Bears doesn't keep doing their own thing. You know, just like you're talking about, if Tarek makes his own org, and just like we were saying before, content creation and personalities like run the show. And a lot of these orgs don't do a good job of building players or their org at all. They have teams that win and then they cash in on some followers and stuff like that, but then they go release a video and nobody gives a shit. You know, there's the exception to this rule, right? There's the 100 Thieves, there's the phases of the world that are content first, right? And it shows that they understand where it's at. Where a lot of these other, I don't think Bad News Bears, with the exception of a few orgs, I don't think they're going to necessarily get that much more of a better scenario. The only thing they're going to get is peace of mind, which is nice because they're going to get a paycheck every month that they don't have to like manage and think about and all that kind of shit. But if I'm Bad News Bears, I accept my reality, which is like, don't worry about things you can't control. You can't control org interest not being there right now, even though you're like performing as best you can with the scenario given to you. I like keep making the best of your situation. Try to find another sponsor along with Leadify. I think what they've done with Leadify is really good. I think they're selling out all their merch. Just continue doing that. Like, they don't need. I think for players it's tough because, and it's easy for me to say from my position that they should just stick it out. But also, I don't really know if they're going to get something necessarily so much better, with the exception of a few like rare case scenarios with certain organizations where they're really going to get a benefit either. I think but it's hard to be patient. Like, it's hard to sit there and be like, oh yeah, dude, I'm cool with not having like a guaranteed contract or salary every month. It's not a fun situation to be in.
No, it isn't really.
No,
I don't think. I don't.
So
think
I don't blame them, right? Yeah,
no.
like I don't blame them, but also me being the like outside looking in, I feel like that's actually the best route they can go is just wait, be patient, keep building what they're doing, keep getting reps in. Sure, they might get shit on, but like in the meantime, keep building on that, keep playing in cash cups, and get invited back to another event, qualify for Pro League again, and. Yeah, because also I think they get paid from Pro League for being there too. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's a small prize money, but still, it's something, on the way. It's true. But then again, not everyone has that mentality that like you're talking about. That's the thing. Like, you have to have like a very, very different like mentality to do those things. Like, it's the same. Like, let's go like back 100 millions of years, it feels like 1.6 days, when I was like one of those few guys where you were touching that point and saying it was a couple of few 1.6 that went over to go in the beginning. I was one of them, and I remember in the beginning, it was very scary if you ask me. Like, I could have still stayed at 1.6, still wasn't massive payout when I had a salary back in the days, but it was something that I could live on. But I took the chance of going over to CSGO in the beginning, and it was terrifying. I mean, lucky for us, I knew a lot of people, I had that connections, and then we could have created an IP back then, and we had something, solid at least in the beginning, Was it massive? No, it wasn't, but it was something, But it was scary, but you just gotta have that mentality to do those things like you're telling them they need to do. Like, and it's not that many people will take that gamble and that risk, especially nowadays when there's so many different opportunities in other games and content creator and like all those things combined into it. Like, being a professional player in esports, doesn't matter which game, isn't really tempting as it was before, Like,
yeah, especially in NA for sure, yeah.
I mean, NA is a little bit worse, especially for CS at least. But if you look on the Valorant side, it's probably way more opportunities. I don't know. I know Slasher knows way more than both me and Eric does. But like, looking as compared in any other games, like it's a very special work, and I think a lot of people look down on it because they're going to different events, like especially for CS. They're going to different countries and doing those things. But there's a lot of work into it. You're sacrificing a lot of things with it. From my standpoint, I sacrificed my health for doing this thing, like it is going against what people is having like opportunity nowadays, where it's like, if you become like a pretty decent, successful streamer, you don't need to be big to be really like successful, if you ask me, because streaming is way different that way. You need to sell it out to yourself pretty good, and like being social, you need to have like good contacts, and it takes time, of course, and it's also a battle up there. It's a completely different like battle you're doing than just being a professional player. But it's just like, you have yourself as the boss. In the end of the day, it's like, if you want to do even better than you're doing the day before or the week before, you need to step up to the plate, and that by their own rules, But being a professional player, if you fuck up a tournament, there is a chance you're getting cut, Yeah. Even if you're getting those salaries and you're seeing those cool places, etc. But at the same time, when most of the professional players, when they're traveling to tournaments, we barely see places. We go into countries, but we don't really see them, We're seeing a lot of like, I usually make fun of it and say, like, when I was a professional player, a lot of places that I saw was airports, hotel rooms, arena/practice rooms, and if I'm lucky enough that I see a bar end of it and have a good laughter with everyone else who's attended the tournament, basically, and go home. Like, and then you're like, well, you were in Sao Paulo, you were in Shanghai, you were in LA, you were in there. Like, yeah, but
you were in a hotel room.
I was in a hotel room, and
I was in a hotel room in Sao Paulo. I was in a hotel room in Shanghai. I was staring at a computer screen in fucking Denmark. I went to fucking Vegas, and all I did was fucking. Actually, no, you're degenerate. Never mind. Anyway.
No, but like it's also the same thing, you know, when you think about it, and that's where Slasher can weigh in a little bit. You know, when he was, you know, traveling to do content and, you know, news about the tournaments and the players and interviews, etc. You know, like back in the days, you know, it must have been kind of the same for him as working in industry. You know, like sometimes that can be interesting because you're seeing a lot of cool places, but there's a lot of work doing with that. You know, he has to do a lot of research for it. He's sitting there and he has to, you know, get good contacts and get to know the right people to do his work even better than before. You know, it's way more different than people maybe think about it. At least they just see, you know, let's say Sentinels, you know, winning so much and, you know, making probably shit tons of money because they're, you know, doing that. But there's a lot of work with it. And think about it. I'm not hoping that's going to happen anytime soon, but there's one day they're going to start losing and probably not going to see the same thing as we did now or has been doing for last year. Or, for example, Astralis, you know, like we're not going to see those moments before, you know, because there's going to be coming other things in life that's going to affect them, or the interest becomes less interesting, or something coming down the line, you know?
Yeah.
So like it's way different nowadays, and now way more off topic than we were before, but like if Bad News Bears, hearing it and really listening to Eric, that's, in my opinion, is worth the chance and worth the shot. But then again, they've been doing it for the last couple of months, doing this already, it feels like. So it all depends on how longer they can actually go.
Yeah. No, I agree. All right. Slasher, are you chomping at the bit? Do you want to add something, or can I go to the next thing?
No, Chris explained it pretty good. Pretty good.
All right. Because we had other stuff, but honestly, this has gone so long that I'm just gonna have us talk about next group that starts. Does it start tomorrow?
No, on Tuesday, right? Or is it on Monday?
I don't remember. I can't remember when it starts again.
I think it's Monday.
See.
No, it starts tomorrow actually. Oh shit. Okay, I thought it actually were like they had at least, you know, so every week was a new week. But okay, so they have like okay, so it starts directly. Cool.
Yeah. Let me see.
So tomorrow directly. Damn.
Yeah, it starts tomorrow. That's kind of why I wanted to, you know, we get the predictions out there before it starts tomorrow, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And then there's a break Monday. I don't know. ESL's weird. Here we are. Anyway, so I was just gonna say the next group is Check's Notes, G2, VP, Cole, OG, Fours, and Sinners. And then, so for those of you that don't know, everybody knows Fours because, you know, CypherCam, but Sinners, if you guys don't know who that is that's Oscar's team. That's gonna probably be who you know most. And they haven't really lost. They did technically take an L. They took an L to, who was it? Let me see. I had it here. They did lose the endpoint, which is kind of like, well, maybe they're not legit, but they didn't lose. They haven't lost in like forever. They were on like a huge win streak. I'm kind of curious to see, because Oscar's been fragging out with that roster, and they've been beating not top teams, but they've been steamrolling like everybody leading up to it. And then on the flip side, we got NATO Safix filling in, and we have Esatag first match with Cole as well for Rush, right? Config's out, right?
Config is out for Saddles or NATO Safix.
Yeah,
NATO, I think you're saying most of the people say out there. So that's quite interesting that way. But like also like Force is also putting that group. I don't remember which team actually.
There's G2 and VP, and then OG, Fours, Sinners, Cole.
Yeah, but Force wasn't supposed to be there. That was the thing. I don't remember what was the
Oh,
reason
really?
again for that. Yeah, Force got in there like last minute, I guess you can say. I mean, sure, that was.
Oh,
like
did
maybe 2
somebody
weeks.
have? Was it like Renegades that had travel
Renegades,
issues?
yeah,
That's
Renegades,
right.
yeah. So it was supposed to be Renegades instead of Force, but Force got put in there, which is pretty cool though, because we haven't really seen Force for quite a while, and that team before when they had.
Cypher Chem.
What is it called? No, like yes, okay, but like I usually call him sex power, but even though it's XE power. Him back in the team. They were pretty decent at least 2 years ago or something like that, but I haven't seen them for quite a while.
Yeah, they were pretty sick when they had a Cypher Chem.
Well, true.
Who do you think comes out? Because like, okay, here's how I look at this group. I think there's G2.
It's for top 4.
It's top 3, right? Top 3 come out?
Top 3, yeah.
So
top 1 goes there directly to quarters, and then top 3 and top 2 goes to like a second phase thing.
Yeah, so I don't think either one of you is going to argue with me when I say G2 VP get out, right? I think that's like, I feel like they're for sure in, and then I think it's between, I just think it's really OG's spot to lose for third. It really just, I'm curious to see what Sinners looks like, and I'm curious to see, like, I think Cole has upset potential. I think Sinners has upset potential. I know nothing about Fours. I completely deleted that team from my mind after all that crap that came out about them, I'll be honest. I haven't watched them at all, paid attention to them at all. I think it's OG's third spot to lose. And what do you guys think? Do you guys think like G2 VP aren't for sure ins? I feel like it's kind of cut and dry with those two. They've looked pretty damn good. I think they're like the stronger teams out of the group. And then I feel like it's just kind of like you got an OG with a new, they got Flamey, right? Or not Flamey, Flame, sorry.
Flames.
Yeah, sorry. Flames. Yeah. So, and they've looked, I think those are 2 good additions. So I feel confident that they can secure the 3rd spot, but I also don't like to rule out Blame F with Cole. I don't know. I think that's like I think they're the dark horse of the group. I think a lot of people, there's not going to be demos on them. There's going to be ESIC and NATO coming in, and nobody, what are you supposed to scout? So I think OG could get upset. Like I would consider that an upset. Like Complexity losing to, or Complexity beating OG. Because I just think OG is a little bit more solid. But also in terms of preparation, I think it's really hard to prepare for Cole right now. Like they're going to have a lot of, that's going to be an advantage. It's a disadvantage that they have a new 5th and they have a stand-in, but their stand-in solid, and nobody's going to be able to scout what they've been doing or what they've been prepping in the off time. And Blame F loves to prep. And I have no fucking clue if Sinners is going to like, I could see Sinners just magically being sick. Like I don't expect it, but like if I woke up and I just saw Sinners 2-0s VP or something, I'm like, all right, let's go. They're for real. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I'm curious. What do you think? Hit me with it. Chris first. What do you think?
G2 100% going forward. That's actually the only team that I think is 100% going forward.
Yeah, you don't trust VP?
VP, I don't know. Like, I think they had a pretty cool showing on Cologne, which they actually like somehow made it through to playoffs, because they were so close to losing out, like ridiculous. They played that really insane game against Complexity with overtimes. I think they were down like 15 something at Dust 2, and they made that super huge comeback like they did against Ends, that historical game, like 15-3, but that was online. They did like similar, but not really. And then they beat an NIP pretty comfortable. And then Big was like a little bit surprising because there was both overtimes games as well. Like, I don't know. I don't know where I'm having VP for the moment, but I hope they're getting back to the form where they were before, where it's like, they'll get out, but I don't know where they're gonna end up. It can be 3rd, 2nd, even 1st. You don't know. It feels like with them. So I'm not really saying 100% sure, because the only team I see is Z2. I feel the same as you're saying with Call. It's like you don't know what to expect with them. Like Either they go really good with ESIC and NATO like perform really good, and especially ESIC hasn't played official for quite a while. You don't know where his standard is, like his form is gonna be at. The NATO same there, you know. It's like it's a completely different ball game. You have to remember, it's like when you've been on the bench, or how you can say it, or like sitting on the sideline.
He's been inactive. Yeah, he hasn't been playing matches.
And you're also going up against like tier 1 CS. It's completely different, you know. And you don't know, like someone maybe found something cool, like a one-way smoke or anything like that, and it takes you off guard, and you're like, has it changed that much? It actually goes pretty quickly in CS. Like that changes quite fast when you think about it.
Yeah.
OG, I feel like OG is like they haven't found their form yet. They've been much better looking than before, but I don't know really like where to put them. Like I think I see them, Force, and Cena like more of the dark horse in the groups. Like you don't know. Like I could see any one of those 3 teams actually make it to like the next stage at least. To be number 1, not really. I think G2 is gonna go number 1, but I think it's still gonna be hard for them. I don't think like it's gonna be walk in the park like 2-0, 2-0, 2-0. I think it's gonna be 2-1, maybe lose 1 game, but they're still gonna go forward as number 1, because it's G2. Because you expect a lot from G2. At least in my books, I expect a lot from them. So I expect them to come number 1. But I don't know. But it's going to be fun to see Oscar again. That's something that I'm really looking forward to see him playing against those teams. I've been watching a little bit when he's been started playing with Sinners again. I always enjoy watching him play. I think he's a really, really good player still.
Oscar was always... You're right. No, he's an entertaining player. Like he just has moments where he does things that not many players can do. He's very like, he's a unique player in that sense where it just feels like he wins rounds or situations that it doesn't feel like anybody else will win, kind of thing. Yeah. Flasher, you been keeping up at all? Who are you thinking?
Group A and Group B are the least interesting to me. I feel like we pretty much seen the exact results, besides maybe and Speedy Astralis, which, considering Astralis was in rebuilding mode, that probably may not be a surprise to some people. I feel like we'll probably see the same thing for Group B. OG, Complexity, VP, G2 are obviously going to be the top 4. And then the third spot will probably be contested between OG and Complexity. Could go either way. G2 is the expected winner. Anything from Fours or Sinners will be a huge upset. And I don't really feel like we'll see any deviation between these 2 groups. I'm just waiting for Group C, which is ultimately Group
I mean, I'm also really looking forward to that one. That one's gonna be a brawl. Like that I think that group is gonna be way more interesting because it's gonna be so many shocking results, if you ask me. Like we're gonna be like, what? I wasn't expecting them to win or they to lose or anything like that. I think that's gonna be way more interesting that way. Like I think
that group is actually
like Slash is saying.
God, dude, I feel so bad for Daps. Bro, Daps has been playing Valorant. He comes back to coach Counter-Strike, and Stanislaw is gone, and he has to come step in for... You want to talk about somebody that hasn't played an official Counter-Strike match in a while, and the worst team you're playing is Fnatic, who just did like a rebuild. Oh, dude, I just feel bad for my man. Like, bro... I'm actually very hopeful for EG, like, as a roster. I feel like they've been, like... I don't know, they don't...
Oh, shit. It was almost a year ago that Daps played an official game.
Yeah, dude. It's
almost a year ago. It's like 11 months.
So, I don't know, man. I don't know.
He's going to get sent right back to Valorant.
Bro, I feel so bad for him. Like, I'm not even saying he'll do bad. It's just like, dude, imagine... You're just like, yeah, dude, I'm down to coach some CS. Like, fuck it. Like, let's do it. And then you're like, okay, yeah, I can stand in for the team. What am I doing? Oh, EPL. What's the group? Navi, FaZe, Big, Mouse, and Fnatic. Fuck. Stanislaw, like, low-key asked him if he could just fill in for him before he said win. He's like, hey, dude, like, I kind of need a break for a little while. I'm a little burnt. Can you fill in for me? And then Dap's like, yeah. And then he's like, all right, so when do you need me? I'm gonna need you for EPL Group C. Bro, I'd be fucking pissed.
But think if Daps does Valence, you remember when he was standing for Cloud9 when he went ham in that blast?
Oh yeah.
He's like going nuts. Like you're like, what the hell?
There's
Like,
definitely no pressure. So
No,
like,
yeah, there's none.
usually
could
players
go
tends to. I mean, players usually and former professional players usually tends to pop off when they have no pressures at all. So
Adren at the major in Columbus.
yeah, that one is also good. I mean, a lot of the more American players did always pop off a little bit extra when they have no pressures. Just saying, just saying.
Hey.
Hey.
All right.
Did Dig not qualify for Pro League? What the fuck happened?
Did who?
Say what?
Did Dig not qualify for Pro League? What happened?
No. Like Pro League is
what
different
happened to your
nowadays.
boys, bro?
They're playing though on Sunday, so I'm gonna be watching them. They're playing like one of the what's it called now again? Like one tournament with like tier 2 teams, I think you could say. Malta tournament or something. But
How
I
the
think they're
mighty
prepared.
have fallen.
Well,
You say that, but
We're not-
Olaf is back, baby.
true. Olaf is back. Olaf is here. He's vibing it out, He's doing his thing.
Ben says how the mighty have fallen. Like Olaf didn't literally just show up after getting announced and then get his team into playoffs, and now they're fucking ranked 6th in the world.
So what you're saying is that Chris, it's time. I know you've had some fun in the last few months being a streamer full time, but your people need you.
Yeah, I'm just waiting to someone knocking on the door, I'm like, they need me, and I'm like, okay, what do I need to do now again? Should I like dust off one of those old SteelSeries monsters as well, back in the glory days when I was like top of the world, I'm like,
Yeah,
there we go.
just get some really stupid. Yeah, no, exactly. That's exactly what you should do.
Actually, one of the best mices that ever got produced, according to myself, was the SteelSeries XI. Not to be bragging about other brands, but that mice was so broken.
It was so bad, dude.
It was so bad, but the problem was I performed always so good with it.
No, it was like a good mouse. The problem wasn't that it was a bad designed mouse, that it was the build quality, bro. Everybody's eyes broken. Like it was like the G Pro double click. Remember, like everybody uses a G Pro, but everybody also has 4 G Pros because they fucking break. Like,
but there's one thing that people don't actually remember. The XI mice had actually a huge problem. It was negative acceleration on it, no matter what you did.
Oh yeah, yeah. Did that one have mouse prediction too?
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember now.
So that mouse was really broken. And I played one of my. I mean, beginning CSGO, I used that one as well. So
I mean,
it makes all sense. Why did I change from something that was working? I don't know.
Lex's best ever LAN match was when he left his monitor on 60 hertz on accident.
What the hell? I mean, he's a boomer, so it makes sense. I mean, it must be the same for the Quake players back in the days. They just needed, old CRT monitors, maybe like Intel 1.1 mice, and everything is up and running,
When it feels good, it feels good. Don't mess with it. Like that really is, that if I had one piece of advice, that really is it. Just like if you're vibing with it, don't fuck with it. Just leave it be, just let it be.
Speaking of which, the Quake World Championships are this weekend, and Rafa is
lost.
in the. No, he won. He lost the upper bracket, but he won his lower bracket game.
Oh
He's
shit!
in the top 8. The finals are tomorrow.
The only thing we're good at, God bless.
Rafa, my man, he's still smashing it out in that game.
Fucking competing, yes, man.
How old is he?
could
What's his
win.
actual age?
I believe he's 31.
Yeah, I think it's like born the same year than.
Did he start playing when he was like 16? Is that what? Dude, I feel like he's just always played.
Yes, he played when he was pretty young. He didn't get really good until the later end of Quake 3. Basically, when Quake 4 came out, and a bunch of the players that hated Quake 4 continued to play in Quake Live. He was one of the players that hated Quake 4, never switched to Quake 4, kept playing Quake 3, then Quake 4 died, then Quake Live came out, which was Quake 3, and then he's just been fucking dominating ever since that game was released into Quake Champions.
Oh, God. Damn.
The true best American esports player of all time is Rafa.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's a good spot
where's
to wrap
Vitality?
it up, man.
Where's Vitality? Where's
wait.
Vitality, man?
Fucking golf.
Jonathan.
He's in Vegas somewhere. You'll find him.
I know where he lives, dude.
I've been at this place in Vegas.
He's got a nice little spot. I like my spot better though.
Of course, you live there, man. You live there. That's the thing.
All right, we'll wrap it up. Because that was 2 hours. I blame Slasher.
You're welcome. Anytime.
It's his fault.
That's his fault.
It's no, it was good though. We talked through a lot. We didn't even get through. I had some extra stuff. I wasn't sure if we didn't even touch any of the bottom stuff. That's fine with me though. We'll save that for the next one because we'll clearly do this again after Group B is done. Then we get to talk about Group C, and then Slasher will have a lot to say.
No, do it after the good group, not the boring ass fucking Group B.
But we just skip Group B and we come back.
Me and Eric does it the Group B one, and then everyone hates us because it's gonna be a boring episode according to that. And then we bring back Slasher for make it more interesting into Group C. Perfect.
Dude, that's nice. But dude, that means we have to talk about Group B.
Oh god, no, fuck, man. Are we doing that? No. Maybe I'll find a partnership to do then. I don't know. We'll see.
Maybe Aben will notice you by then. I doubt it, though.
Yeah, unlikely. Thanks for joining us, Slasher. Thank you for coming out of your hidey hole.
All right, see you 2022.
Dude, come on. You're going to be here for Group C. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, if you're not here for Group C, then I don't know. Then we start the new trend again. Restart the whole fuck Slasher trend.
Yeah. We'll tweet at you every day. Tell us what happened to Doc.
Yeah.
I'll be back when ESIC makes another tweet.
Oh fuck.
Oh god, that's really gonna happen.
Fuck. Well, all right.
We're really doomed then.
Yeah, we're really fucked right now. God damn it. All right. Later, guys.
All right.
Later.